students to Unit 10. As we move into these remainder units, we're moving into Chapter 8 of Layman's book. And like we were doing with Chapter 7, in Chapter 8 of Layman's book, we're going to move slowly through this chapter. And for Unit 10, you need to read Chapter 8, Section 1, and do the exercises for that section specified in the syllabus and on Blackboard. So what we're moving into now is statement logic and proofs. And in this section, we're introducing implication rules of inference. You're already familiar with 5 of these, like modus ponens, modus tollens, disjunctive syllogism, hypothetical syllogism, and but we're introducing 3 more, so having a total of 8 implication rules of inference. And we're introducing addition, simplification, and conjunction. And a good summary of all of this is inside the front cover of Layman's book. It has all the implication rules detailed right there for you to see. And in Quiz 7 for this unit, you need to be able to identify each implication rule. You need to be able to see it and identify which one that it is, and pay special attention to addition, simplification, and conjunction, because these all look very similar but yet are very different. So what we're moving into this week's unit, we're moving into Chapter 8 and moving into statement and propositional logic and proofs, where we'll be for the rest of this semester. We will learn and use implication and equivalency rules in order to do natural deduction. Natural deduction is less cumbersome than the previous truth tables, and as Layman notes, it mirrors our intuitive patterns of reasoning. Natural deduction also is something you will encounter more often in theology and philosophy of religion and apologetics, when writers use proofs to show that their own argument is valid or another's is invalid. In doing proofs, the goal is to show explicitly that if given only the premises of the argument and the valid implication and equivalency rules, one can deduce the conclusion. And if one does that, then one has proven that the argument is valid, because you've used nothing but valid steps to get to the conclusion. And what proofs do, they show us explicitly that one has only used these valid steps to get to the conclusion. So we're still using symbolization, and these proofs will look much different than truth tables. They will actually show the form and flow of the argument in a vertical form as we reason from one premise to the next, and then the conclusion. So a couple items of note. For the quiz this week, you will need to memorize the 8 implication rules, as I've said. And you're already familiar with the first 5. You just really need to learn the next 3 that have been introduced here, and read the section closely, and I'm going to have 2 other questions in there related to the content. And for homework, you need to make sure that you show all of your work. So what you want to do is, as Layman clearly says in the book and teaches in the book, you need to number your premises. So each premise should have a number. Your conclusion is identified by the triangle dots identifies the conclusion, but all the premises of the argument should be numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, and on. And you need to annotate each step in the argument beside the premise. So you have the premise that's numbered, 1, and then the premise, and then 2, and then the premise, and then 3, and then the premise. You need to annotate each premise and what step was taken to get to the next step. So the form you're going to see and we're going to use for the rest of the semester, you're going to be given the argument. You're going to be given premise 1, premise 2, let's say premise 3, and the triangular dot and the conclusion. What you need to show is, given those premises, only those 3 premises, that you can deduce that conclusion. So what you're trying to get is that conclusion. And you want to annotate your steps. And that means putting the small abbreviated form of what the step is and the number of the premises used to get to that step. If you have any questions, feel free to email the instructor and we will get back to you ASAP on how to help you with that. So number the premises, always annotate them. You're trying to get the conclusion, and it's valid if you've only used those premises and the valid steps to get there.